Let's talk about Bane and why I think he is the best Batman villain that was created in the modern era of comic books. What's up? Thank you for watching. I am the Dude Without Fear, and I believe that Bane is the best Batman villain that has been created in the modern era of comic books. Now, the modern era of comic books is like 1985 until today. All right. And so there's been a ton of Batman villains created in that time frame, but I think that Bane's the best of them. And in order to really, I believe, understand why Bane is so cool, I think that we need to start by looking at some of these other villains first and kind of talk about them and compare them to Bane to see why Bane is better than they are. And I just want to give you a heads up, there's going to be spoilers. So if you don't know secret identities of the major Batman villains over the last few years and you don't want spoilers about some of the big stories that have happened, then you should stop watching, read what you want to read that you don't want spoiled, and then come back because I'm about to spoil some stuff. So let's take a look and see what we got. Created by Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee in 2002, Hush took the Batman world by storm when he debuted. Beginning in Batman number 608, the 12-issue story, simply titled Hush, has become one of the most popular Batman stories in the character's history, probably due to the large cast of villains and allies that appear throughout, and the whodunit style story crafted by Loeb that keeps readers guessing at Hush's true identity up until the very end. Now, I'll warn you one more time that if you haven't read the comic or you've only watched the animated movie, turn this video off and come back once you've read it. Okay, now, on with the show. Hush is Tommy Elliot, a world-renowned surgeon who just happens to be the childhood best friend of Bruce Wayne. Tommy is in great physical shape, very intelligent, very wealthy, and a great strategist. However, in the Hush storyline, we learn that it was really the Riddler who was pulling most of the strings, making Hush nothing more than an accomplice with a jealous hatred towards his childhood best friend. It's very petty. Hush showed up a couple more times in some very lackluster stories until Paul Dini tackled him in Batman Heart of Hush, which started in Detective Comics number 846. In Heart of Hush, we see that Tommy Elliot is once again playing a big game. He has given himself plastic surgery and assumes the face of Bruce Wayne in an attempt to steal his life from him, murder everyone he cares about, and retire with the Wayne family fortune. And while this is a big game and a large threat, it's nothing that the Batman can't handle. And at the conclusion of the House of Hush storyline in Streets of Gotham, Batman finally puts Hush into Arkham Asylum. So Hush may be a smart and crafty dude, but he's nowhere near Batman's level of intelligence and cunning, and when he strikes out on his own, he's not much of a fight for our Cape Crusader. Jason Todd was the second boy to carry the mantle of Robin after Dick Grayson broke up the dynamic duo to go shack up with an alien princess turned supermodel turned Teen Titan. Jason was killed by the Joker in the history-making story A Death in the Family, and unlike most comic book characters, stayed dead. Well, for 17 years anyway. Nobody stays dead in comic books, unless your name is Ben Parker. In 2005, Judd Winnick and Doug Mankey introduced a villain who went by the name the Red Hood, which is a name that a lot of criminals used to go by until the last Red Hood fell into a vat of chemicals and became the Joker. I guess that was the only mask they had. Anyway, in Batman 638, we learn that this new Red Hood is none other than Jason Todd. Except he's not the same Jason Todd who was Batman's sidekick, who struggled with obedience and, secretly killed a dude. Nope. This Jason Todd answers to no one and kills people left and right. With guns. This was a mind-blowing reveal and really shook up the Batman world for a bit. In Batman Annual number 25, we learn that while Batman has carried the weight of Jason's death on his shoulders all of these years and blamed himself for his demise, the resurrected Jason Todd also blamed Batman and wondered why Batman not only let him die, but also let the Joker live. In the Lost Days, we see Todd follow his mentor's footsteps and travel the world, learning different skills from different masters and setting out to replace Batman as the hero that Gotham needs. Now, Judd Winnick really stepped Jason Todd up a few levels, and Red Hood could have been one of Batman's most formidable foes. There was just one problem. They didn't leave him as a villain. When the New 52 launched and DC screwed up their universe continuity in a partial but not fully committed It's Complicated type reboot, they focused on redeeming the Red Hood and making him more of a hero once again. In my opinion, DC missed a golden opportunity to make Red Hood an evil version of Batman, and they really could have had something special if Jason had turned Damian over to his side, which fits Damian's viewpoint already, and DC could have had an evil Batman and Robin. This would have been fun to see Batman deal with fighting not one, but two of his sons who are out murdering all of Gotham's criminals. Way to screw that up, DC. I guess you hate making money, huh? DC's New 52, or as I like to call it, U52, ushered in a new family of villains for Batman. The Court of Owls, created by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, first appeared in Batman Volume 2, Number 3. The Court is essentially a cult crime organization that has existed in secret for hundreds of years, controlling the rich and powerful in Gotham from the shadows, even hiding in some of the city's oldest structures, unbeknownst to the owners of the buildings. This cult of squatters is so good at hide and seek that they've existed in secret for centuries and even kept themselves hidden from Batman in his own building. Which is why the Court of Owls doesn't work as a Batman villain. If the Court of Owls was a Daredevil villain or a Spider-Man villain, heck, they could even work as just a Nightwing villain if they're based in Bloodhaven. But in order for them to work as a Batman villain, you would have to dumb Batman down, which is exactly what Scott Snyder did. As I mentioned earlier in Batman number 3, Batman finds one of the Court's nests in between floors of the old Wayne Tower, a building that Bruce Wayne owns. As a Batman reader for the last 20 years, this is very hard to view as plausible. An evil secret crime cult isn't going to be able to just squat in a building owned by Batman in a secret floor built between floors because Batman is going to know every inch of a building that belongs to him. A scanner would pick up this hidden floor and Batman would take full advantage of it and build a satellite Batcave there. You can't live in Batman's house without him knowing about it, not without some sort of magic, and let's be honest, Batman probably has some ways around that as well. But okay, let's say we try very hard to ignore this insane miscalculation on Batman's part. In issue 4, we learn that the reason Batman still refuses to accept the existence of the Court of Owls, even though he found their nests all over Gotham, is because that when he was 9 years old, he got the idea that the Court of Owls were behind his parents' murder. So he investigated them at 9 years old, without any training or basic knowledge of how to be a detective. And shockingly, he came up with absolutely nothing to prove his claims. And because he never found anything, when he was 9 years old, He has chosen never to believe in the court's existence. Now, he states that he's looked into the court as an adult, but always found no evidence. Yet on this night, he found a dozen owl nests across the city. It sounds to me like Scott Snyder's Batman is very egotistical and full of himself, and you know that affected his investigations into the court. Batman is not egotistical. He is not prideful. He is confident. He is calculated. And he is actually humble. But that's not the Batman that Scott Snyder writes. Scott Snyder's Batman is a lesser version of the character. He is very egotistical, and in being that way is actually a very weak character, as is presented in every Batman story that Snyder wrote. If the Court of Owls existed with the same Batman that exists in the Hush storyline, they would be no greater threat to Batman than the weakest version of the Royal Flush Gang. If you have to dumb the character down for your villain to work, you've not created a very good villain. This Batman villain is known as the Batman Who Laughs. First appearing in Teen Titans 12, which was a tie-in issue to the Dark Knight's Metal story from, again, Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. This character is very popular currently, and some see him as Batman's most capable villain. But the concept of the character is so absurd that as soon as you say it out loud, you realize how dumb it is, and it immediately falls apart. The Batman Who Laughs is an alternate Earth's Batman who, when he killed the Joker by snapping his neck, Joker gas that the Joker placed in his own heart somehow released into the air, infecting Batman and turning him into the Batman Who Laughs. Literally the dumbest origin of all time. How does one inject a poisonous gas into one's own heart? How does one do so in a manner that is a booby trap for your enemy and doesn't somehow instantly kill you? I do not even think of this guy as a Batman villain because my life is better just pretending that he doesn't exist. Now I'm going to be 100% honest. I was almost finished editing this video and getting it ready for you all to watch, and I realized that I forgot a villain that is probably, in my opinion, the second best Batman villain to be created in the modern era of comic books, and I cannot allow myself to not give this character and their creators props. So watch this. Making her debut in 1992 on the 22nd episode of Batman the Animated Series titled The Joker's Favor is Harley Quinn. In 1994, her creators Paul Dini and Bruce Timm wrote a story called Mad Love, giving us the character's origin. Dr. Harleen Quinzel was a psychologist working at Arkham Asylum trying to cure the Joker, but instead fell right into his hands, went crazy, and became his partner in crime and girlfriend, whom he named Harley Quinn. She didn't debut in the main Batman comic book continuity until 1999, but before that happened, she was already becoming one of the most popular characters in the Batman universe. In the Mad Love story, in an effort to cheer up her puddin', Mr. J, she takes one of his old schemes and sets a trap for Batman. She is successful and has Batman with no way out, except to play into the Joker's madness. He convinces Harley to call the Joker and tell him what she's done. This, of course, infuriates the Joker because he feels no one has the right to kill Batman but him. He rushes down there, takes his frustrations out on Harley, and frees Batman. Batman later tells the Joker that Harley almost had him beaten, and his only way out was to get the Joker involved because he knew he couldn't take anyone else defeating him. Harley Quinn was an amazing character on her own right and worked best when paired with the Joker, but DC Comics really messed up the character during the New 52 years when they made her into a female version of Deadpool. It's classic Harley Quinn for me, or no Harley Quinn at all. As awesome as Harley is, she can't really go toe-to-toe with the Batman, not like the Joker can, but she is insanely popular. However, this is not a popularity contest. Alright, now, so why is Bane better than all these other villains that we just talked about? I'm going to get to that, I promise you. But I feel that before we can really see why Bane is such a good villain, we got to talk about Batman really quickly and see why Batman is such a great hero. Batman's origin story isn't so different than many other heroes. A lot of them were born out of tragedy, but it's Batman's response to that tragedy that set him apart. In response to his parents being murdered in front of him, he made a vow to them that he would dedicate his life to make sure that this doesn't happen to anyone else. And from the age of 9 years old, he set himself on a path to become what he believed he needed to be. He began to study and train. He traveled the world to learn from the best of the best how to fight, how to steal, how to escape, how to survive, how to track, and how to detect. Bruce Wayne had so much drive and willpower that he literally pushed himself to become the best in the world in many categories, unbeknownst to him. He set a goal and focused on that goal, and if anything in his life was unnecessary or wouldn't help him achieve that goal, then he would cut it out of his life. Bane is in many ways just an evil version of Batman, but without the means. In 1993, Vengeance of Bane, written by Chuck Dixon and drawn by Graham Nolan, introduced the world to Bane, the man who would break Batman's back. Bane grew up in Pinajero Prison on the island of Santa Prisca. His father had died, and according to the laws of the savage place, his son would have to serve the sentence in his absence. Bane was born into the worst prison in the world. His mother cared for him, and they were in protective custody until she couldn't go on anymore and passed away when he was 6 years old. After his mother's death, he was moved out of protective custody and into general population, where he would either adapt to his environment or die. During a fight between two inmates, Bane was pushed over a banister and knocked out when he hit the ground. While unconscious, he had a vision of a strange man. This man told the boy that he could grow up to be him if he pushed himself, that he could have anything he wanted if he could only conquer his fear. And he showed the boy his fear, which had taken the form of a giant bat. Seeing the bat scared the boy out of his month-long coma, only he was no longer a boy when he awoke. He killed for the first time at 6 years old and was locked away in solitary confinement, which in Pinajero was where the warden sent people to die. But Bane did not die in this harsh environment. He conquered it. He was trapped in body, but free in mind. And in his mind, he was killing his fear. Bane used the environment meant to kill him and made himself stronger with it. When he was released back into general population over a decade later, he learned how to read and discovered how valuable books were. And through his exploration of Pinajero's books, which strengthened his mind, he learned how to strengthen his body. Now, everyone always attributes physical strength to Bane, but they almost always underestimate his intelligence. While everyone else was smuggling in drugs or cigarettes or weapons, Bane was smuggling in books so that he could continue to strengthen his mind. Bane would live within his mind. He may have been physically trapped in this hellhole, but in his mind he would escape and picture himself free. And his cellmate, Bird, told him about Gotham's mysterious Batman. The thought of him haunted Bane, and he had to escape Pinajiro to get to Gotham to see this Batman for himself. Bane became hard to handle, and when his death toll hit 30 men, he was sentenced to endure experimental procedures. Santa Prisca was trying to make super soldiers. Bane was fitted with implants in which venom could be pumped into him, which would immensely increase his physical capabilities. Using this opportunity, Bane faked his death, but once he was free, he went back for his buddies and killed the Warden before escaping to Gotham. When Bane came to Gotham, he studied Batman, learned what he did, how he moved, how he reacted, and then he used what he learned to formulate a plan that would defeat Batman. Bane fought Batman mentally before he ever fought him physically, and it is through Bane's mental strength, his ability to plan and strategize, that he was able to defeat Batman. So how did he do it? Bane blew a hole in Arkham Asylum and freed all of the inmates because he knew that Batman could not allow himself to rest while these murderers and psychopaths were running free in Gotham. Batman, who was already physically and mentally exhausted, continued to push himself beyond his limits until Gotham's streets were safe from these lunatics. And when Bane felt that Batman had pushed himself too far, he took control of Wayne Manor and confronted the Batman in his own home. Batman can barely stand up straight and keep his eyes open, much less fight. But that's what he does. Or at least that's what he tries to do. Bane just plays with him. He tosses him around the cave and expects Batman to fight back, but he is more exhausted than Bane imagined. Bane is disappointed in the Batman, and instead of killing him and putting him out of his misery, he breaks his back, defeating the Batman more than anyone else ever has. In many ways, Bane operates near Batman's level. He isn't necessarily his equal, but in some areas he is as close to it as someone could possibly be. Like Batman, he is incredibly driven, extremely intelligent, a master strategist, and able to turn men's bones into dust with his bare hands. He is an incredible physical specimen and can stand toe-to-toe with Batman in a fight any day of the week. But all these other villains we've talked about, when it comes down to it, they can't really hold a candle to Batman. Hush is not extremely capable on his own. He usually has to have people along to help develop the plans, and he is no match for Batman physically. Red Hood is Batman's worst protege, lacking the discipline and self-control it takes to get anywhere close to Batman's level of abilities. He is also controlled by his emotions, which makes him easily manipulated. The Court of Owls are only effective with a dumber version of Batman. The Court of Owls couldn't exist in the same continuity as Bane's Batman, at least not in the same capacity, because they would never have been able to get a jump on him, not without some sort of mystical help. They are, in my opinion, a complete and total joke. And the Batman who laughs is just dumb. Not even really worth saying more than that. And Harley Quinn is nowhere near Batman's level of intelligence or fighting ability. Bane is the only one out of them all that is anywhere close to being Batman's equal. And that is why I believe Bane is the greatest Batman villain created in the modern era. So what do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Is Bane as boss as I think he is, or am I full of it? So let me know in the comments below what you think. Let me know what you thought of the video. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. It's my first time making a video like this. I would like to do more of these. If you'd like to see more of these, let me know. And that's all I got for you. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Be excellent to each other. and take it easy.